2017, and we're doing our monthly e-learning today. Steve will be joining us in just a moment. Decisions for profit. So this is going to run pretty fast at a nice pace, giving you opportunities to think about things that you have in place now and maybe some shifts you could make. I like this topic because 2017, and we're doing because it allows us to maybe think differently. And if you want to bring in some messages today or questions to say elaborate on this, or what do you think about this on a certain topic, please feel free to do so, because Brian is sitting right here filtering all of your comments and messages should you have them. Okay, so we're going to start with the first one, which is compensation, and we're going to just talk about that quickly because Steve and I really believe that one of the biggest areas that profit is compromised is when someone has a sliding scale in their compensation structure. For example, maybe I'm 1,000 to 1,500, you make 50%. 1,500 to 2,000, you make 55%, and then so on and so forth. Well, what's happening is the dollars are going up, but so is the percentage of compensation, so therefore that's hurting profit. We really don't support a sliding scale. We would rather have people concentrate and focus on their ability to have their prices increase based on their productivity in many areas, and we refer to that as a career path. Not just looking at the dollar total for the week, but looking at that dollar per guest average in service, dollar per guest average in take home, and giving them milestones that they have to meet, and have those milestones in place for a period of time, after which things would be looked into, whether it's the rescheduling percentage, the service per guest ratio, looking at the amount of guests, the pace in which they work. All of that would be evaluated and help them understand where they need to be for their price increase to go into motion. This happens because when the price goes up, and hopefully it's not something just $2 or $3, hopefully it's $5 or even a $10 increase, the compensation is locked in as far as a percentage to protect the bottom line. What's going up is the pricing, so therefore who's paying for the increase isn't the salon, it's the customer. Compensation's locked in to create profit you can bank on. So a sliding scale really hurts this. If you want to elaborate and talk about this in more detail, having us evaluate yours, please see your consultant, and they can also get us involved. So if you have any comments on that, let us know. The other thing that we love to talk about when it comes to compensation is looking at and paying differently for a reputation guest that's from the salon versus an individual. So how I worded it here is paying differently for a salon reputation guest, whether it's new or established, versus a request guest of any kind. A request guest could be a new request, or it could be a established request guest for the hairdresser. What we think is when you're filling a chair, pay less in commission, because there's cost into training and development. And a way for you to absorb some of that training cost is to pay less when you're filling a chair versus someone filling the chair themselves. This is a big area that really needs to be evaluated. This will keep the hairdressers focus on rescheduling. Here's why. If they reschedule and understand the responsibility to rescheduling and creating a repeat guest, they're going to want to have repeat guests in their chair because they make more commission on it. If all the work is always done by the salon filling a chair, and there's no, honey, are you there?
I'm here.
I heard you. Good. There's no reason for them or an incentive for them to create a repeat guest because they know the salon will fill the chair. Steve, why don't you elaborate on this slide?
Well, I think it's not just the cost of training. The reason why we would do this is there's a marketing cost involved. And when a guest comes in based on the salon's reputation, the salon had all of the reputation cost and marketing cost to bring that guest in. If we're truly committed to creating a repeat guest, which every team member should be, then we've matched our compensation plan with what our values are as a company.
Mhm.
And so if they that day turn that guest into a repeat client by setting up a future reservation, then in fact, they've earned their normal commission rate for the future. So it only needs to be a one-time thing where they're working at a lesser commission, and certainly small cost to have a lifetime guest.
Well, and we've debated this because I would probably do even more of a percentage difference, maybe even 20 points to get their attention and focus in the right area. But I put 10 on here just to create peace in the family.
Uh-huh.
You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
It used to be 5 and 10. Now you've gone 10 and 20. So.
No, it's 10 and 20. I like it. So let's go on to the next slide, which is about service charge. Steve, go ahead.
Well, there's a lot talked about when it comes to service charge and or product charge in a compensation plan. And really, realistically, if you could go to the proper percentage commission off the top, then a service charge or product charge is not always necessary.
That's where I refer to a built-in commission structure where it's already built in and you don't even need to talk about it. But I wanted to do that.
Most salons are trying to make an existing compensation plan work. And when they're trying to make an existing compensation plan work, it makes all the sense in the world not to do a particular dollar per guest, but to do a percentage off of each ticket prior to paying your commission. So what we recommend is 10%. So if it's a $50 service, it's a $5 deduction and then pay your commission structure. And the reason being, it's parts and labor. If you went anywhere where there was a service involved, and the easiest one is a car, of course. You take your car in for service, and they'll have, when they total it, they'll have separate totals. One will be for the parts they use, such as 5 quarts of oil, an oil filter, an air filter, etc. And they'll take those parts and they'll add tax to it, and then they'll bring in your labor charge, and then they'll have your total. And so the technician is paid based on the labor charges. They're not paid based on the parts charges. In our world, we pay on everything unless we have this particular plan in place. And the reality is you're actually then paying an upcharge on the products that you've used, because if you're paying commission on that, you're actually adding 50% more to the cost of goods that you have when you're paying.
Give them some math on that.
What's that, Terry?
Give them some math on that so they can understand what you're referring to.
Okay, so for sake of example and easy numbers, let's say we have a $100 service ticket. We're paying in a 50-50 structure. So $50 commission to the service provider, $50 for the salon. And what we're suggesting is you take a $100 service fee or service charge, and deduct 10%, so that's $10, and pay your commission on $90, which puts $45 to the stylist, to the technician, and $45 to the salon. And of course, you've gotten your product cost.
But when they don't do that,
makes better sense.
well, when they don't do that, they're doing $50 to the salon, $50 to the hairdresser, and then they're paying for the product usage too of $10. So really the salon didn't get 50%. The salon got less, and it needs to operate with the commission being in the right way.
Very true.
Okay, so can we move on from that? Did that give us a good basis that we could have a problem? Because our number one cost in the salon is cost of labor. And so if we don't have that right, we're probably going to have a difficult time. And the amount of owners that are active behind the chair, they can't even compensate themselves for their productivity. We know when that's the first question that we ask is that their commission structure isn't in or designed to create profit for the business. Okay, so let's talk about take home. So when you look at take home and acceptable standards, you've got to have take home in place, excuse me, to create profit for the business. And for some hairdressers on staff that don't understand their responsibility to that, I mean, they really have no clue on how much what is available in the salon is made available because of the sale of take-home products. That helps us be the salon that we want to be for our guests. So you have to hold them accountable for this. Regardless of how much they bring in service, they got to have a take-home presence of productivity as well. This is difficult for a lot of owners because it's an afterthought, and it really needs to be at the forefront of your mind because of the percentage of margin that you make on it. And this is why a lot of salons aren't inviting in their take-home areas, that they get to it when they can, that they don't celebrate the take-home area or talk about a professional recommendation or a product wardrobe for their guests. This really is not the number one priority, and we have to give it equal attention and equal time in training and development to our staff. And maybe not as much as a haircut, but certainly the disciplines have to be in there to understand how to position take-home as a profit center in the business.
I think that this is really a key. We're talking about doing things that allow your business to be profitable. And as Terry said, the number one cost of doing business is your cost of labor. And quite honestly, we have adopted, for the most part, a program, a compensation structure that was designed at a time when we had a weekly shampoo and set, and it was just carried forward. When we coach salon, this is the key. I mean, you can be great at cutting your costs all throughout the business and maybe make a couple of points difference on your bottom line. But you can rest assured that the key to profitability is having the right compensation structure. Now, the only thing that reduces your percentage of labor, so your compensation cost, without cutting that, is having take-home sales. For every 4% the take-home is of your total gross revenue, it reduces your cost of labor by 1%. And that's in most cases. In some, it can be a little bit different, but for the most part, it's for every 4% it is a cost of labor. At 4% the take-home is of your total sales, it reduces your cost of labor by 1%. So you're in a situation as an owner where you've got a compensation plan that doesn't work, and on top of it, you've got a staff that's not making the proper take-home recommendations for their guests. And so they've almost put a stranglehold on the business and made it very difficult for you to be profitable. And so it's just a choice of doing the right thing for the right reason and working together as a team in the salon. That's a key. And this is a must. It's just a must.
So we're going to talk about technology versus labor. And we've got some things that are happening now, whether it is using technology in a way for, whether it's Demand Force and Zzor, those are the only ones I listed, but Steve will probably have more as we're talking about this. But think about how technology now can do all the confirmation calls, that we don't have to put labor at it or for it. We can have technology nudge our customers in a better way that our staff can. There was times, I remember people would say during downtime, go call all of your customers. Now we can send a blanket message out to them, or a mass mailing, or something to help support them in getting them back in. But Steve, talk about technology versus labor, because I think what we do in the schools to nudge customers is by far, because we have to get enrollment, it's by far more effective sometimes in adding labor costs.
Well, again, technology is, as we know in our family, as we know in our companies, technology is a must. It's not going away, but it's also not something that comes easily to a lot of people. Technology.
I'm one of them. I'm one of them. Here I am. Hello.
And you know, sometimes that can be a real challenge. We recently had an owners meeting at PSC, and as I looked around the auditorium at the different ages that were present, it honestly was by age, based on comfort with technology, comfort with social media, comfort with how to market outside the norm. It's been said that social media is word-of-mouth advertising on steroids, and I think that's a good metaphor. But in reality, it's another thing that needs to be managed. It's another thing that needs to be understood. It's another thing that needs to be constantly worked on and tweaked. And so, in that conversation, we had people say, "Well, I just don't remember. I don't remember to go on and to put a post, or what post I should be putting, or how often I should be putting." And there are programs that help you manage that. One of the programs is Hootsuite. There's another program that Salesforce.com puts out called Social Studio. And I know there's others that help you manage when you post, where you post, and if you post to multiple sites at the same time. It allows you to set up posts for a week. I know that Demandforce allows you to set up your Facebook posts for future dates and times. Demandforce also, if used properly, can be used to reach out to segments of your database. So for example, if you've got a guest that hasn't been in 90 days, you can select all the guests who haven't been in for color in 90 days and send out a blast email to them saying, "We want you, we miss you, we're running a special color promotion in order to bring you back into the school." And all those things. You can do it on special take-home promotions. You can do it on, I think one time we did it on a special Mother's Day promotion. You can look ahead in your base. Like, for example, we used it when we knew that Tuesday afternoon was a particularly difficult time for us from a traffic standpoint. So we ran a special to guests who hadn't been in 90 days or more that was only good on this Tuesday from 1 until 5. And so you can be very specific about what time on the book, or what guests, or only, in our case, only in phase 1 or only in phase 2. So you could have it only with new stylists. But the fact is that now we have a lot of options to be able to reach out to our guests and nudge them to come back in. We can also manage the guests rather than just losing them. We can manage that number. How many of our guests are at risk? How many guests have we not seen for a haircut in?
We just lost him.
The quicker you catch that, the better chance you have of retaining that guest or bringing that guest back into the business. So that's something that I think is a key. Demandforce is a tremendous tool. Another tool is Zzor. And Zzor allows people to real time, it allows your staff, it allows your leadership real time to see the results, to see if we're meeting our goals, meeting our objectives, to see if we're rescheduling guests for future reservations. Are we hitting our service dollar per guest, our take-home dollar per guest? how many guests are actually enjoying take home while they're there. Tickets with both is a big one. How many tickets go out of here that have both service and take home on them? I particularly like looking at it for how many guests are in the business right now. So how many are seated right now that we can affect, that we can make a difference for? How many have already checked out, and how many are yet to come in? Those are three big numbers for me.
I think the point on this is, if you were to put labor, well, how much would it cost to have someone provide everything Steve just talked about, or have their eyes on the business, communicating with you as an owner, and being able to state everything he just said? I mean, how many people are in the business right now? So it's almost like having the robots on staff. We're going to pay for those robots with technology, but it's going to offset what we would have to pay if we were to put those things in place using resources of people. So the whole point on this is, excuse me, some people will say, well, that's so expensive. No, we're not doing our confirmations as well as we could be, or our customers aren't responding to a live confirmation. I kind of want to go there for a second, because right now with the children, we have a series of appointments that we have, and whether it's seeing a doctor, seeing the orthodontist, going to dentist appointments, medical updates, so on and so forth, like all of you do. I've got one doctor of all of the ones that we're seeing right now that does not do automated confirmations through my phone. And I'm telling you, to have that nudge of confirmation saying, you're due in here at 3 o'clock, a week in advance, 3 days in advance, and then the day before, see you tomorrow for a dental appointment at 1. It is helping me so much in my life, knowing I'm not missing an appointment. This one doctor is driving me crazy, and I tell them, you need to go to automated confirmations. They said, we've been talking about it. I said, really, you do? Because I have to call every week and say, what time's my appointment this week for a doctor's appointment? Technology is the way customers prefer now to communicate with their service providers. You're another service provider on the list for them. And to not be using technology to confirm an appointment and being able to have them see or respond that I can't make it, or are you going to be here, or whatever have you, is you're losing ground with them, because the customer wants it. I'm begging this doctor to do it, because it's really difficult for me without that. They say to me, do you want a card? Yeah, to put where? I mean, a card to remind me in my wallet that I can't find anything, right? So to have confirmations come through, the card is a who cares now, and the phone call is a who cares, because sometimes they're calling the landline. Who picks up their landline messages? Sometimes they're calling the phone. Who picks up those messages? But to receive a text and a nudge, it's powerful. So I just wanted to bring that up. I would spend money on technology versus having labor do that, and it might give your business, if they're doing confirmations, the freedom to do other things for you, like Steve was just mentioning.
Well, and the key, by having appointment reminders be managed by technology, it allows our service desk people to be proactive in calling during their downtime. We've got people in a call center that are calling out to guests also that haven't been in, to set up future reservations. And so that, to me, allows us to take those people and put them in money-making situations and service providing situations versus just reminding of a existing appointment. That can be done much easier in today's society. The other technology that I would recommend that you look into is called Salon Clouds Plus. Now, it's important, Salon Clouds, that's plural, and then plus.com. They work, I'm sure, with Millennium. I'm not sure if they work with other brands, but they can do everything from create a website for you if you don't have it, to creating landing pages, to allowing you to put geofences around your business so that people driving by or walking by get a message saying stop in, If you use Waze, Waze uses geofences. When you're driving down the road, it says if you want if you want Starbucks, pull off. They'll direct you. In other words, it says we're here. You're by us. Come see us. You can do that with Salon Clouds Plus. You can have an app immediately. They work with you to build an app for your business as well. And the app is all about guest engagement, customer engagement. It's really, really what I'm seeing is it's very, very well done. In fact, if I've got a second, I may pull that up on the phone for you here if I can give you a good enough look. This is my salon that's owned by Scott Massad. It's the Gene Juarez Salon. It just happens to be the one that I have as an example. And on theirs, they have multiple locations. And you can see the first page that comes up on their app is their various locations. So if I pull one of these up, and I'll take downtown Seattle for sake of example, the next thing that comes up is this page. And in this page, for those of you who can't read it, it's request appointment, call us, whatever their offers are, their salon services, spa services, refer a friend right from this, gift cards, they can order right from the app, Instagram, you can go to their Instagram account, you can see what their hours are, you can take virtual tours of their locations, directions to their locations, or you can go right to their website. You can also see down at the bottom where it has our story, post a review, have your own settings, and then this is one of my favorites, which is engagement for them to come. It's a gaming feature, which is scratch off. So for scratch off, you hit that button and it comes up, and I didn't win anything, darn it, but it says please try again tomorrow. And scratch off right on the phone. Engagement, it gives your guests a reason to come back to the phone every day and check to see if they want anything. You can also post a selfie on their app, and it's just lots of fun stuff. If I were a salon, something that came up in our consultant meeting on Friday is posting shelfies. I kind of like that idea. Selfies are big, but what about a shelfie regularly for your salon that shows a take-home promotion, or that shows a particular stylist's favorite products? You put them on a shelf and take a picture of a shelfie. I think those could be fun things to add to social media. But this whole thing is, how do we use technology to enhance engagement with our guests? That's what we want. We want them to play with us in between salon visits, because that's going to equate to visits. Well, if you open up your Starbucks app, you'll see that they've got a summer game going on right now. And their summer game is a reason to go to that app, play, get star points, to be able to go get free coffee. It's just it's a fun way to keep your clients engaged and also and also get additional visits. It's not just engagement while they're away, it's also come back in. We want to see you.
And if you think about the number one excuse people say, that the reason that they're not able to get to ideas is because of time or resources, and this technology kind of eliminates that excuse.
It does. Well, at least lets you put some of these things in downtime, so to speak, where you can put a concentrated amount of time in it and then just let technology execute it.
Okay, so let's go on. So we're going to talk about training cost. I think that people are always asking, what are you paying for training costs for people when we bring them on staff to become an apprentice or an assistant in our program? First of all, we recommend an hourly wage, and most of the time it's minimum. Also, talking about what those training costs are going to be 6 months out, meaning this is where we're hoping you to be in 6 months. I said that wrong. In 6 months. Now, if we're bringing them in and we can afford an hourly wage, do we bring one in January, and then we know we're going to hire the next one in July, and then we're going to hire the next one in December, your training costs sometimes can be out of whack because you found 2 great employees at the same time. So now you've got double hourly there versus you thought your bottom line could only handle 1 at a time. We're realizing now, and we're seeing people that are expediting the cost of their training because once certified in a skill, they're allowed to accept guests in that category. Steve, go on and talk about that a little bit, because that's really helping absorb some of the training dollars versus taking a year or 2 years to get someone trained and have them bring in and generate any dollars for us.
Well, first of all, there's a couple of things that are, this is an area, training staff is one of the first things that got us into the school business. You know, the very first thing was to be able to provide qualified talent for our best salons as they were growing. And so everything that we do here in the schools is designed to speed up that process from graduation to being able to be a valuable dollar-producing team member in your salon. But there's always a bridge. There's always that training that needs to take place because they need to understand and learn your way, your culture, your techniques, your salon's way. And typically, you see it anywhere from 6 months to 2 years of training that takes place depending on the salon and what their systems are.
Well, and that's difficult. 2 years is a difficult wait now for this generation.
Well, yeah, because you know what? This generation doesn't want to be broke for 3 years. They really don't. Right or wrong, they also look and say to our generation and the generation after us, if you're so good, you should be able to get me ready faster. Right? I shouldn't have to pay the same price that you paid. I should be able to pay lesser of a price and make all of us money faster. And I'm seeing that start to hit salons. I know a salon that I met with recently that used to train their trainees 1 time per week, and then they shadowed for 4 days after that. And now what they have is they have modules. They've taken all the basic skills, put them into modules, and they have module training 4 times per week. So 4 training days versus 1. And it's competency based. So when they're competent in one of those modules, they test out of that module and they move on. So if I'm particularly dedicated, if I'm using my at-home time, if I'm practicing, if I'm working on it, and I'm competent in a skill faster, I'm going to complete the program faster. But also, once I'm competent in a skill, I can then schedule guests in that skill. Mm-hmm. So for example, let's say I test out on men's haircutting, on basic men's haircutting. I've tested out, I'm competent, I've been approved. Now I can schedule on the books for men's haircutting, and it starts to mitigate the cost of me in training. If I've tested out on blow dry techniques, our salon's blow dry techniques, now I can begin scheduling blow dry guests, and that mitigates the cost. And I think you see where I'm going. It's the same thing. If I've tested out on retouches, on color retouches, if I've tested out on basic hair color, gray coverage, if I've tested out on women's hair cutting, all of that, if I've tested out on updos. And of course, they take those marketable skills and encourage that to be tested out on first. So blow drying, updos, retouches, those types of things, men's hair cutting, so that people can get right in and get started and get going and start to, again, mitigate the cost. If you go back to the process here, this is about profitability. One of the things that eats up profit is the fact that we bring people in to train, and somewhere along the training, we turn them over, they leave us, and we've lost our entire investment in them. And so part of the reason we have to look and say, where can we fix this upstream? We fix it upstream by saying, it's just taken too long. And not only is it a cost on our business to train for that long, we're not saying lessen your standard. Please don't misunderstand. Hold your standard. But think about this in a different way. because what we're doing right now is not working by and large. So how do we change it? How do we make it work and still have the standard that we want, but keep some of those people? You know, everybody we lose isn't a bad person. They just lost hope in their ability to get through our training program.
I like it, and I think it takes a mindset. I mean, the paradigm is definitely shifting on what we need to do. I mean, can you imagine a busy salon owner saying, you want me to train 4 days a week? It's going to take a team effort to get people ready. They're not going to train 1 day a week and fold towels and sweep hair the other 4. You can't keep them engaged like that. So they have to know the purposeful training that's taking place today, or what do we want you to witness during this 4-week module? What are we going to perfect? What skills are we going to focus on? And if they don't know where they're going to feel lost. And that's not where we want them to be. So I think that was an excellent point.
Well, just imagine this. Most people that come into our industry are told by their family and their circle of influence that they're never going to make any money in this field. Most are not immediately supportive of this idea. They go through school, they get into a salon, and then they're asked.
And they're broke while they're in school.
You know, they're broke while they're in school. Then they're asked to basically work on minimum wage for a year or more, and they're broke still. And imagine what their circle of influence is saying. They're going through 2.5 years sometimes of I told you so's. And it takes a really, really strong, passionate person to survive 2.5 years or even 2 years of I told you so. I told you you'd never make any money at this. I told you it wasn't the right thing.
You know what I heard recently, which I couldn't believe, is they said, this is the best assistant we've ever had. Like, we don't want to lose her as an assistant. And I said, yeah, but she wants to be a hairdresser. So you can't hold her back. Yeah, but we're going to lose ground because she's the best assistant we've ever had. I said, you're going to lose her completely if you don't hurry up and figure out how she's going to fit in and start making money in the business. I mean, we get so comfortable having the boat go faster, we don't realize that the people on the boat are frustrated.
Well, and is the boat going faster or is the motor just loud?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. Wait. So wait a minute. I got that. Brian, you're supposed to
fix
tell
your
me
hair.
you got a hair sticking up. Okay, so let's go back. Education. Let's talk about it. So what?
Yeah, it's worse.
How about that one? That's good. Brian.
You're Spanky from the Rascals, Little Rascals. I don't know.
Okay, there, it's good. So
okay, let's go.
Let's talk about education. Who pays? What, when, where, how? Approved education. You have to decide how much room you've got here. I want to talk about the last line first. I mean, make sure that the education that you're investing in for the people on staff, the dollars that you want to spend, is that you're approving it. You approve the education because you know it's what they need. It's going to help them create more depth and width in their career. Sometimes they come to you wanting to go to a class that you're not sold on, saying, you know, I think it'd be great that you go to the class, but that's not on my approved list for you. These are the things I want you to focus on. So if you want to go to that class, you need to fund it. You could create an education deduction every week and house that. You could create one and match what they put into it. You have to decide what works for you. What I do want you to stop thinking is that every single person has to receive the same education plan. It is different. You've got different needs in there, and sometimes you send people to an educational event that is costly just to create a team outing. Make sure education is supporting the growth of the hairdresser. You can do a team outing at Six Flags or Great America, but when you go to education, make it sure it's stretching someone, and decide by looking at what you want to pay per quarter, and then the classes that will help mold your people. Now, do you need to attend all of them? No. Maybe sometimes you've got a staff that you think might be might goof around too much if you're not present, then lean in and join them. Other people you can send without being in attendance and ask them to bring that back and train the rest of the staff. Education is really something that is personalized and individualized based on the needs of your team. And I don't know how to say it any better than that, but I grow weary watching the same education done year after year with the same people and not asking for a return on that investment. You have a right to ask, especially when you're funding it, this is what I am asking and this is what I expect on this investment I made in you.
The schools do a really good job of that, and it's a system that I would encourage salons, especially if you have a staff of, I'd say even 6 or more, created a return on investment, an education ROI book. And in that book, what you want to do is you want to list, you want a segment, you want it separated by either by month. I would probably do it by month, 12 months, and have what the education event is, the date, the hours, the cost, both hard cost, the ticket, but also cost of if you're paying the employee to be there, if you had to schedule the employee, the team member out of the salon, so you lost revenue. Put real cost to all of that. If you gave them a per diem, if you reimbursed anything, so you've got your total cost. Then, what materials did they get at that training? And those materials need to come back. If the salon paid, the salon gets those materials. And then what's the expected return? When are they going to share that with staff? A date, a time. There's always, if you're investing in education, there is an expected return. How is that going to come back and make the boat go faster? How's it going to come back and benefit the entire staff? And at the end of it, you sign off as an owner and they sign off as your team member. And all it does is it calls to mind the education that's been done. They know you've got that book. They know they're accountable to you when they get back. And they know that they're expected to do something with that education. Mm-hmm. So it's a good best practice. I'd really strongly recommend it.
Well, and I can tell you, even with us, there's times you and I go to something and it's not immediately shared or it's not presented. So we've got one person that's walking around with knowledge and the other one has no knowledge of it at all. And how's that work for us? And that happens in education all of the time.
We should use it at PSC, Terry.
Yes, we should. Okay.
We got enough people that we send education.
Absolutely. Now, paying tax on gratuities, because you need to think about, are you doing that? Are you also paying the service charge that the carrier puts out and the gratuities that your guests are leaving? You might want to charge that back to your staff. I don't know. This has come up recently a lot because of the amount of people that are only doing business with credit cards. Very few people have cash on them anymore. So if someone does $1,000 this week and 180 in gratuities on the credit card, you're paying points on that $180 that has nothing to do with the salon. Just want you to think about it. Steve?
I just watched a brand new class on their first day walk past the window, and it's fun to look into first day eyes of people just starting to pursue their dreams.
Oh yeah, first day too. They're nervous. First day of school.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway.
Cute.
Okay.
So let's talk about a landlord relationship. Give some bullets on that.
Well, you know what's interesting is there's so much opportunity there, and I continue to learn about this even myself. We have just started in the last year meeting as tenants, a tenants group, in our Chicago location. We don't do that, as far as I know, we don't do that in our Lombard location.
Yeah, we don't do it in Rockdale either.
No. But there's opportunities. There's things that come up that influence your rent. If you're in an area where CAM is involved, common area maintenance, what accountability do you get for that common area maintenance? What do you have any input? If you're in an area where you have either leasehold taxes or property taxes that you're responsible for a portion of, what kind of input do you have on that? Do you have any input on it? What kind of input do you have on things like snow removal and things like those? Are all the little bitty costs that just come up, and it's kind of, oh well. But you're a tenant. You have the ability to talk about those things. What about HVAC repairs and major electrical things? Be familiar. Most of us sign a lease, put it in a drawer, and never look at it again. Most of us just pay and feel like we're forced to pay whatever the lease has. When I look at, for example, signing a lease in 2008 and having a lease that comes up to renew in 2018, you can bet that there's a lot that happened within the marketplace from 2008. How many of us, all of us, signed a lease when the market was at its high, and now have people that have come in and signed leases around us? Do we know what they signed at? Do we know what the going rate is? Or do we just maybe sign again or execute based on options to renew? When you have a chance you have a chance at any time to ask for renegotiation. You have the opportunity to take in the facts and the figures and meet with your landlord. Sometimes landlords change 2 and 3 times. We were with a salon recently that is with in one lease, they're with their 3rd group that's owned that building. Mm-hmm. And that happens. I mean, I can tell you here in the mall in Yorktown, we have the same lessor, but the people we deal with has changed twice in 4 years. And I'm guessing there'll be more changes because there always are. So we want the benefits sometimes of a relationship, and think about how you felt when you signed your lease. Do you feel that same way about your landlord today that you did when you signed your lease? And what's changed? And in most cases, what's changed is your level of communication with them. And so it's a real plus. And you know what? Behind cost of labor, when you look, what I like about this so far is that when you look at things that affect profit in a salon, what are the biggest things on a balance sheet? The number 1 thing is cost of labor. The number 2 thing in most cases is rent. And the number 3 thing is cost of goods. So when you take those 3 things, they're all key to your overall profitability.
Okay, so let's go. Usage disciplines. Just quickly, we want to talk about them because we still have a lot of waste here. We still have people talking about it. I was in a class yesterday and it didn't come up. They've got really good disciplines on this, but they didn't have it for a long time. Color, how much developer, how are we monitoring how many scoops of bleach we're using, station usage. The biggest thing that I don't think we've spent enough time on, because treatments have really taken off, or it's starting to be a category that's enjoyed by our customers, is how are we measuring the usage in treatments? There can be a lot of waste there, and in many cases it's an expensive product. So we want to make sure we're putting things in place. You know, I'm not a big fan of, or I guess maybe I used to sit in in a nail salon, and they would come with their little usage, like this is how much we're going to use for your massage, and this is how much we're going to use for our green clay mask, and blah, blah, blah. And I think, God, stingy. Put a little bit more in there. And then I realized I use too much. They're using the right amount. And do we have those disciplines in the salon? Because most owners are very frustrated with the amount of pumps, the amount of scoops, the amount of free pouring that's happening. And all that is waste down the drain.
There's a couple of things that I want to call attention to regarding specifically color, bleach, developer. And that's that it's a good, I think it's a best practice. If you think you're investing too much there, or that there's a lot of waste, weigh your color bowls after. If you can't, I think I just lose, okay, never mind. Weigh your color bowls after, or if you don't have a scale, or certainly we have them, but if you don't invest in a scale, just take a stainless steel can, put a garbage bag in it, and dump all of your leftover color, and I wouldn't put color and lightener together. I would put them in separate ones, but nonetheless, see your waste. Let your team see the waste for a day and a week, and you'd be amazed. The value in measuring for a guest before and then measuring after is you can put it into their records, so you know how much product, how many grams of color, how many grams of bleach is required for that particular guest in their service, and that helps you not waste again the next time. So to have the right disciplines for 6 weeks or 8 weeks is going to allow you to make the records that will allow you to significantly cut your color and lightener usage going forward. The other thing is, for those of you that have a larger salon in our Chicago location, many of you have seen, we use a machine that's put out that measures the developer. We feel it's many times very difficult to measure usage of color. But color, we know the ratio between color and developer. So if we track the developer, we can also then know what kind of color usage we should have or should expect.
What machine are you using?
We use a machine called CTS. It's a lot like an espresso machine. Each unit has 5 different slots for levels of developer, and we use 2 of them at the Chicago school. And they're purchased locally. So I'll give out the number if anyone is interested. You can ask for Chris, and the number is 630-606-3396. And the machine is CTS. It's a color developer dispenser. It does interact with Millennium. So the whatever the usage is goes to Millennium, and it's reportable, and it's storable on the guest record. It's also, there's another one, there's at least one more software system that they interact with that I'm aware of, and I can't think of the name of it. It's the one that I believe Redken uses.
Good.
So
like
that's what we've got for that.
So I am going to skip that. Let's go here. Timeline for extra costs. So if we do technology, or we buy this machine, or we hire someone, or we train someone, you should be looking at your timeline of when those extra costs are coming in. And it's a great staff meeting to say, hey, this is where we're going to be bringing dollars in. It also is, when can we afford? I'm notorious for saying, I want it now versus I want to plan for it. And thank you. And so when you look at it, where are those extras going to come in? How, because we probably have a pot that extras, but you can't have all the extras in the same month or all the extras at the same time. So how are you going to timeline your extra costs? And some of you do things like, besides the obvious, open houses, launches, you're philanthropic. It could be some facility extras that we need to paint a wall or upkeep. We might have to do some replacement things, but all of that can go on the timeline because those are things that we know are going to happen every year. And then, of course, your staffing needs, the cost of training, and so on and so forth, those can go on the launch too. In my calendar, I have every time we lose someone, I put it in that month, and every time we add a new employee, I add that, because there's also energy. We've talked a lot about dollar costs, but there's energy costs associated with all of this. You bring in a new employee, or you have a new thing that you're launching, that's energy that you have to put in that you're taking away from something else. And there's a cost to that too, because it becomes a mental distraction of change until it's absolutely taken on by everyone and owned by everyone and becomes a ritual and a habit of the business. So energy costs, look at what happens every time you have these extras, what it's going to cost you on energy as well. There's something that we say, and Steve says probably more, is identify the nice tos and the have tos. And you can position out the nice tos. This would be great if we could do this, or we could add these things. But what are the have tos we have to get done right now in order to protect the reputation and the integrity of the service that we're delivering to our customers? Those are have tos. The nice tos can also be put in place. Have tos to protect profitability, nice to protect profitability. So identify the difference between the two.
And realize that there's sometimes that the have to do's bump a nice to do. They'll delay a nice to do. You know, just for a quick example, a water heater goes out. Well, you have to replace that water heater. And the cost of that may bump something that you were going to do as a nice to do, that you really wanted to do, but bumps it till later.
Well, the have to has a priority list too. Water heater would move to the top. You still want to get the other, but it might have to wait a little bit. Good?
Good.
It is 11 o'clock. Brian, do we have anything?
No questions at this time. No.
We're good. Next month is, I don't have any idea. I usually bring the topic in with me, what you can expect next month. I hope this one was thought-provoking and gave you some things you can think about to move your business forward. Disciplines are always something that everyone is working on all the time, personally and professionally. I wish you much success going into probably the busiest last trimester of the year.
Also, just keep in mind that one of the people we study under says you're either going to have in life the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And so we wish you the pain of discipline as you move in the direction of disciplines for profit, disciplines for your business to make it grow and make it all that it can be. Thanks for spending this time with us.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.